This episode of the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast is brought to you by, me. It's brought to you by me and my Mindset RX seminars. And in these seminars, we focus on three main areas. We're currently touring the UK, but we develop the techniques to help you push harder in WODs, create an unshakable consistency, and create the system which fills you with a champ's mindset. Basically, we'll be mastering your inner athlete. You'll come away from the day with a customized approach made for you that enables you to perform at your best every single day. Current tickets, 29th of July at CrossFit Thames in London, very close to when this comes out. The 12th of August in CrossFit Causeway in Coleraine, Northern Ireland. 19th of August in Battaglia Fitness, Liverpool. 26th of August, CrossFit Swansea. 16th September, CrossFit Napalm, Stoke-on-Trent. And 23rd September in CrossFit Braintree. And the 7th of October in CrossFit Ulysses in Middlesbrough. If you want tickets, and you definitely should, head to www.mindsetrx.squarespace.com/seminars. MindsetRx, that's mindsetrxd.squarespace.com/seminars, and you'll be able to check out all the available options. Tickets are actually selling out surprisingly and impressively quickly, and I haven't even advertised them yet, so get after them as soon as you can. On today's show, I am joined by good friend and brilliant mind, Kasper Van Der Meulen. We touch on the nervous system's role in mindset, his current work, and a whole lot more besides. As ever, talking with Kasper, it was a super enjoyable chat. And even after 3 days of solid travel for me around Europe and hosting a series of seminars, it was so much fun. And this short but sweet Mindset RX series podcast is super good fun. So let's get on with the show. Let's start with nervous system, and let's start with the research you've been doing and why you got into it.
Yeah, so the last time we talked, I was very much into mental fitness and mental optimization, which I still am. But I keep peeling layers and seeing what's underneath and what's there and what's there to be found. And through a lot of the work with the Wim Hof method and the work that I've been doing here, so we're currently recording this in my gym that we're opening August 26th, working with athletes much more, where I find that there's these underlying physiological principles and systems that are constantly interacting with each other, and they produce a state, and then people find themselves getting caught in states. And that was very much what all my mindset work has been about. But now I've been talking about how the brain works and how the brain is layered and how that manifests states, and also about the evolutionary reasons why the brain works that way and all of that stuff. But now I found that as a kind of a new field of research, which is a very similar thing, but for me it's been very interesting to see what are the physiological systems that are most easily accessible to us. And the whole view of looking at life as I'm a human, which means that I'm a set of complicated, interrelated physiological systems, and you can create little feedback loops within those systems, and then basically change the output of whatever the system is doing. So the reason I got into the nervous system is because it's very easily readable. So a lot of the work I've been doing is I see a lot of people in relation to difficulty, which is either working hard here, carrying heavy stuff, or going into an ice bath, or climbing a mountain in their shorts, approaching something really scary for the first time in their life. And for example, I've seen about probably up to 4,000, let's say 3,500 people go into an ice bath and face that kind of intense stress, and then see how their state changes on autopilot. Mm-hmm. And then I read their breathing and I read their posture, and I can see just through 3 or 4 breaths, and then introduce something uncomfortable, and then see how their breathing and their posture changes. I've been able to completely predict how they're going to deal with the difficulty. So it's very interesting. So I can't read their mind. So I've been talking about about mindset, and I can't really read people's minds, but I can read the state of their nervous system now. So that was kind of a really cool insight that I found, where, hold on, if I just read people's breathing and posture, I'm pretty sure in which state they are. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to read their minds. I can see what the nervous system is doing, and then kind of make up what they're thinking. And so people, they've been thinking I'm a mind reader, but that's kind of like a trick. So, and there's so much application in there, and then specifically the nervous system, which is just the main actor of all of this physiology. And it's the one that is most easily to teach. Yeah. So I learn in terms of what can I teach, not of what can I feel and stuff. So, for example, let's say hormonal systems. Mm-hmm. I've been doing a lot of practice in reading my hormonal system. So, for example, knowing where my insulin system is, where my glucose is, whether I'm in ketosis or not. I can really feel that, but I found it very difficult to teach people how to feel that and how to influence it. Mm-hmm. While as when I'm working with breath and mindset and posture, we can basically take the nervous system from this state, bam, and they're in the next state. Or at least, and then they can feel what's happening right away. So that's why I kind of like got on that train.
I can't tell you how conscious I am of the way I'm sitting and breathing right now. Now you said that.
And I'm slouching and whatever. And then that's another cool thing is where yeah, I get a lot of people, as soon as I say that, then people, they kind of like, they go like, is he reading me? But I'm not. It's not something I do on purpose. It's just something that I'm noticing. And again, the reason I know about this stuff is because I need it. Because I've had a lot of postural shoulders and postural problems and shoulder problems, and I tend to slouch a lot, especially like it's Sunday. I'm kind of tired and well, not really tired, but just had a very intense week, and I kind of like go like that. And also, there's no judgment, mm-hmm. And this is something that I've also been really expanding my view on. Is that people are asking me what's the right posture, and they're saying like, "Oh, you're slouching. That's bad posture." And I go, "Well, is it really though? Because yes, slouching is bad if you do it 9 hours a day while seated. But why would we even have a slouch if it's not functional in some way, right?"
That makes sense, yeah.
And I've just been thinking, just like people say stress is bad. Well, it's bullshit.
No, yeah, of course not.
So there's a chiropractor that I've been working with. It's a very dear colleague of mine, Trisha Smith. She's going to love me doing a shout out to her. And she said something that was really smart, I thought, which is the best position is the next position.
Yeah.
So it's really about, are you changing mm-hmm. the whole time? Are you moving around? Which is way more important than thinking, oh, I have to always be like that.
Yeah.
Actually met a guy last week who has done a lot of work on his posture. So much, he's like consciously the whole time. And you can always see him like, oh, I'm standing? Okay. And he puts himself in that shape. It's good to be able to go to a different shape. It's important to do and to be aware. But it doesn't mean that being like that because you're scared to have bad posture is the way to go. So there's no judgment. It's a spectrum. That's what I love about the nervous system thing. That you can understand that it's a spectrum, and there's a state at the top and a state at the bottom, and there's a whole bunch of them in between, and none of them is bad or good. Just don't want to be stuck anywhere. Just being stuck is basically the problem.
Cool. Have you thought about, or have you tried using different self-talk to like initiate different responses or different phrases or anything like that?
Yeah, that's where I started.
Yeah. Okay. So just literally self-talk, like a phrase, and then see what response is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a start.
Yeah.
That's how I began with the whole thing,
right.
Because it's kind of like you're standing on the tip of this iceberg, and a lot of people feel this is what's interesting about working with mindset is that a lot of people feel like there's this space in the top of your head behind your eyes where you can't see, right, and that's where the true self is, like the identity, and that's just trying to kind of like maneuver this floppy meat bag around this scary world. So there's like individualism to a point where we say I have a mind and a body. So we've even separate. So there's separation from everything, even within. So there's separation from I am this human and I have a mind, and the mind has a body or whatever. So the first thing to catch is like, and now I've been envisioning like that tiny little human is standing on the top of this iceberg, not realizing that he is the iceberg, and there's only a little bit that he can see. And then the more you work with awareness, the more you can see from the iceberg. So like, for example, feeling where my hormonal systems are, or feeling whether you're in ketosis, that's advanced work. But just watching yourself talk, that's the first step. And when you can do that, you can change how you talk. And then you can... And one thing I've actually, this is a little quotey thing that I apparently said somewhere, and then somebody quoted me on a blog, and it said, face difficulty watch yourself suffer, change the reaction, repeat. And then it said quotes with Kasper Van Der Meulen. And I was like, oh, I said that? That's really cool. So I was about to write a post about that. And that's really what it's about. So you have to be able to watch it first, which is a big step for most people, and then learn that you can change it. And that's like the biggest freeing step. And that's how I started. And like actively going into my internal vocabulary. And every time I caught myself thinking something, going, why is that there?
Yeah.
Why is it here? What's it doing? Where did I learn it? Where did I pick it up? How has it served me? Is it still serving me? And literally take a piece of paper and rewrite the script.
Yeah.
And just go from one thing that's not helpful or disempowering to something that's helpful and empowering. And especially in those moments where it's hardest, that's where the little voice of doubt comes up most. And then just have to kind of like face it and change something.
I love it. It's, I've been doing a lot of reading into Zen recently. And it's like, man, we're teaching people presence, but in a different way. It's so exciting to see. So exciting to see.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Nice. How have you found the best ways to cultivate presence and awareness?
Well, it has to be a conscious practice. That's like the main thing, where you take time to train it. So that's why I talk about mental fitness as the idea that presence and awareness is a mental muscle that needs to be trained. And you have to sit down and do it. And especially catch yourself not do it. So that's what meditation is about to me. You just sit there and go like, I'm here, and then kind of go, hold on, I'm not here anymore, fuck. And then you change it, and then you get back and back and back, and that's how you're training. Anything where things get hard. I think those are the best. So here's another thing. This is all very recent to me, and I've been drafting actually even a new book, a few of them actually. So one of the things I've been talking about is breathe for the state you want, right? So that's one. And then another one is everything matters. Yeah. And the question of what if everything mattered? Every breath, every detail in the breath, every detail in your posture, every single thought you have, every emotion, and every single judgment you have over the emotion, I should say, it matters. Mm-hmm. But if you live a comfortable life, you don't notice it. If you live I call it a low stakes life. Yeah. And it's not better. It's not a low stakes life is not a worse life or a less valuable life than a high stakes life. I just choose to live a high stakes life because it keeps me on my toes. Yeah. When I lived a low stakes life, I could sit and like binge eat junk food, and I wouldn't feel bad, right? I could drink, and then the next day I was kind of like, yeah, no, I'm okay, right? And now I've become this sensitive little boy. When I eat something that's not good for me, I'm messed up. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it affects me more negatively than it used to, but I have become more sensitive on the field of awareness. My body is not more sensitive to these changes, but my mind is more sensitive to however I respond. And that's practice of awareness, and that has taught me everything matters. But if you have a low stakes life, you just sit on the couch, you play video games, you eat junk food, you watch the news, you complain about life, there's no stakes. Basically, you can just go through your days in whatever way. And again, there's no judgment, but I do call it a low stakes life. You don't realize how much everything matters because there's no presence and awareness. Yeah. Then if you face difficulty, like if you've got this massive sandbag, if you got the yoke in your neck or whatever you're doing, like you're pulling yourself up and whatever, you're stepping into an ice bath, you're going into a difficult conversation with your spouse or with your boss or whatever, then suddenly everything matters. You change your breath just a little bit from nose breathing to mouth breathing, you're getting into panic mode. Yeah. And the same thing, that's what I love about the sled pool. Me and my brother Frank's been talking about it a lot. And he's been yelling at me in which kind of torque I am, or flow state or anxiety, the strong fit stuff. And I'm pulling, and as soon as it's becoming difficult, all I do is that. And I'm dead. Yeah. Right? All I do is go to external torque. Yeah. I switch to mouth breathing. I look up. I start to suffer, and I'm gone. Mm-hmm. Everything's gone. He starts shouting at me, "Flow state, flow state!" And I go shit, and I go back. Right. And that tiny little change in posture like that mattered so much. Yeah. The same thing in an ice bath. If you're breathing for panic, you're getting panic. And every single thing, every thought suddenly matters. So for me, training presence and awareness is go into a situation where there's high stakes, every single detail matters, and then just experiment with those little details and tweaking them out. that way of looking at it has been really profound for me.
That's really cool. I love both that and the finding intensity side of things. I think like the intensity, it was a way to amplify what's going on internally.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, as you said, everything matters, and you got no choice when you got that yoke on your back to, okay, I actually have to think about what I'm doing. You can't do that half-assed. And it's Julian calls them task-orientated workouts, and I think that's I like that, because you have to be focused on exactly what's happening right that moment. That's cool.
That's good. Intensity is a good word for it.
Yeah, intensity tolerance is key. Like something that I've been also focusing on in seminars, been alternating between, before we do the intensity tolerance bit, which is my favourite bit, I say to some people, it's like, this is going to suck, this is going to be hard, you're going to get thrashed, and then the other people, it's going to be like, okay, this is going to be fun, we're going to see what happens, we're going to just experiment, there's no pressure whatsoever, and the performance in those people is 90% of the time so much better. It's just like that pre-framing. It's cool.
Pre-framing is a big deal. They did a study on teachers. This is something I'm interested in because I worked as a teacher for a long time, and they would have a group of kids, just any group of kids. A new teacher would come in, and they would go, hey man, I'm so sorry you have this group of kids. They're really troubled, and their behavior is shit, and they're all over the place. You have to walk in and just make sure you just get through these hours with them, and whatever you can do, right? And the other one, they just went, oh, this is such a cool group of kids. You're going to have so much fun with them. Just go in and, they're going to learn so much from you. And, well, obviously, the differences were massive. So and you can pre-frame yourself. Now, input is something that is definitely triggering you and framing you and getting you somewhere, but you can change your input internally. Yep. That's basically what you're doing. You're feeding back a different kind of input. And whenever I've been, so one phrase that I've been working with, self-talk phrase, I never do just the self-talk, but I always want to have a full physical memory of what I felt like when I determined the phrase, and also I actually do postural things. Like, for example, a lot of times when I say focus, I do this.
Yep.
And not because this is a particularly helpful thing to do when you're focused. I just picked it up from some kung fu movie and I thought it looks badass. But it's just that every time I stand in front of my ice bath, I go, and in my mind I say, focus. And just doing that brings me there right away. So it's been ritual. It's almost like a Pavlovian response. Yeah. I've programmed it in. I want to do that, I'm done. I've been listening to this. I was just talking before we did the interview about David Goggins, the most hardcore athlete on the planet. And here's a little thing. There's a few things that stuck in my mind from a few interviews I've been listening. That's how I learn. Like, I find a person that I find interesting, and then I just listen to a whole bunch of interviews from them. That's how I found your podcast, actually, before you contacted me, because I was looking at Seth Godin.
Okay.
And anyway, this guy, he said, when you're at war, it's like triple Navy SEAL, all that kind of stuff, and there's two little things he said. One of them, when you're at war, you're entering a building, you have to kick in the door, come in hot, and get shit done. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that I say in my mind. So I'm going into this workout, not like and he was like, if you open the door and you peek inside, you're going to lose, because you're doubting and all of that. And that's how I've been. Yeah. As soon as I walk into the gym, in my mind, I'm like, boom, it's Kasper fucking Van Der Meulen, bitches, let's get shit done, right? This is just in my mind, and I'm going there. And another thing he did, which was amazing, that he's been through Hell Week 3 times, and then he said, whenever this instructor is giving me more pain, I just smile at him and he said, and go, show me the suffering, give it to me, like show me what you got, right? So that's something of what I've been. Actually, last week I was doing sandbag shoulder throws. Yep. And that's just external torque all the way. It destroys you in all ways. I'm like out of breath and mentally wobbly and everything. And in between sets, what you want to do is go like, oh, fuck, this is so hard, I can't do it anymore. Like, yep. Oh shit, only 2 minutes are left on the clock, right? And you do that, and it's unhelpful in any way. So one thing I've been teaching athletes, as soon as they have a set of rests and they're like, and all I do is like, act like you're unimpressed.
Yep.
Just act like you're unimpressed. They go, and they kind of smile, and they're fine.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then I go, and then right before the clock is about to end, I go, all right, sandbag, show me the suffering. And I start with a smile on my face. Mm-hmm. And I just, bam, and I'm there. So I think that, once again, self-talk is probably the first thing you can change.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's just a matter of perspective. It's like when you're training with people or going through hardship with other people who are coping better than you instantly go, okay, maybe it's not that bad. Like maybe you just take that step up. It's cool to see.
Yeah, it's perspective.
Nice.
It's a very important thing.
Nice. How has your training progressed over the last few years, and where are you going from and where are you going to?
Well, that's interesting. Like I just said, Facebook just reminded me that 5 years ago I ran a Tough Mudder, which means that 4 months before that was the first time ever I started doing anything to get myself in shape. Just going for like a 3 kilometer run and completely feeling destroyed and horrible. So that was just like, and I love that I picked a Tough Mudder first, because what I was looking for, it was intensity and like feeling very much alive and doing something that's ridiculously out of normal and just finding a way to love it. So that's what I did, and I did a few obstacle courses. Then I started getting into ultra running, which is much more intense than obstacle racing, depending on which obstacle race you do. But getting into ultra running, ran a few ultra marathons, and I was very much goal oriented. And then I realized that I had this little goal that I talked about last time, actually, where I wanted to run an ultra marathon and do a double bodyweight deadlift in the same week. That was like my 2 goals. I was like, if I can do that, I'm pretty solid. So I did that, but I totally fucked up my mobility with that one-dimensional training. So now instead of doing endurance or strength feats, I've transitioned to just skill, because I'm like, if I can do a skill, then I can. So on strength, generally, and on endurance, generally, you progress pretty quickly, and then you get to a plateau, and you peak from the plateau, and you kind of drop down and peak from the plateau. A lot of people who are in marathon training, for example, or powerlifting training, they find this PR that they kind of naturally reach pretty quickly, and then they keep kind of wobbling around it and always on the verge of being overtrained or being injured, and always kind of like pushing it. Especially in the marathon world is like that. And I didn't want to go into that loop, because at a certain point you're going to fall off and you're going to be bummed about it, not being able to progress. Like, for example, you turn 40 or 50 and you can't keep progressing. But now I'm like, if I can learn skills, like for example, handstand. Right, so where did I come from? I couldn't lift my arm any higher than this. I couldn't get my hand above my shoulder because my lifestyle had fucked up my shoulder. And literally, I didn't even have like a spectacular crash or whatever. I just woke up with a completely numb arm.
Useful.
2 weeks in a row. Completely useless, just because of my sleep apnea was so bad. I was overweight and smoking and everything. And my deltoid was just damaged from fucking sleeping, right? And now, I couldn't do an overhead for the longest time. Now I can stand on my hands. So that's something that I'm interested in, where it's inspiring to learn the skill. And I can absolutely see myself 80, 90 years old still being able to do a full handstand. I can't see myself progressing, for example, my strength PR to the point where I'm going to be better at it when I'm 90. Because I'm 31 now. I'm pretty sure that if I keep... And I'm thinking, how can I train in a way that makes sure that I'm moving better and feeling healthier in 60 years? Instead of thinking, how can I set my PR in the next month for the competition? Completely different way of working, and it's forced me to focus on skills over direct performance. And there's always something to be had on, like, just do a proper hollow. Just laying on the floor, do a hollow for a minute. That's the kind of stuff that is just... It's very difficult. Yeah. It's a very important skill. So that's what I've been doing, and it's little experiments where I want to learn like a pose or learn a move, and much more playful. And I've been working in much more randomness lately, where I'm trying to, instead of going, this is my schedule, I'll keep on the schedule for this long. I just want to confuse things and do something completely different every now and then.
I like that. It's perfect. So I particularly like what you said about skill first. Tell you've been hanging out with Brian a bit. Skill, intensity, volume. Yeah. That thing works awesomely. Would you say that you've become more aligned with who you really want to be over, like, if you kind of, because when we're goal orientated, I think we focus a lot on the what and like almost like the ego appearance of like, okay, this is what I want to do. And like, because I heard about what you did and I was like, fuck, I can do that. I went for a 2.5 times bodyweight deadlift and I was fucked from training it. And I just like, you know what, this isn't really who I want to be. I kind of dropped back into, or I kind of found out, okay, I don't want to be doing that kind of stuff. I want to be just a general all-round athlete, and I've got this concept of like the adventurer warrior. Like I want to be able to like physically physically capable, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, and a few other things in there as well. But have you kind of identified who you want to be, or is that just a leading question?
Yeah, we actually, so this gym is going to be called MLab, and it stands for Move, Lift, Act, Breathe. And most of them are pretty obvious except for the act part. And the subtitle is like, act like you know. So we have this manifesto, it's going to be on the wall right there. And it says, act like you know. Look deep inside, face your demons, show the world who the fuck you are. And that's kind of like that part of our manifesto. And that's been really important because the question is a lot of times, who are you? And how does that manifest in everything you do? So, and this is something also my brother does very well. Sometimes when somebody can't get their lift and they're asking him for like, how do I get this weight off the floor? And they're looking for a technical thing. And at one point I asked him the question, he looked at me and he was like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? Who are you? Who the fuck are you? And I was like, boom. And then, so the way you stand in life manifests in all places, anywhere. So it's very much about knowing yourself, right? That's what it's about. Knowing yourself, looking deep inside, facing the demon, knowing who you are, and then almost like uncompromisingly being that person that you are. And also, and so it's an identity thing. And the problem is with athletes and anybody is that we link performance to identity in a judgmental way. So if I hit this PR, I'm a better person. If I don't hit the PR, I'm less of a person. Instead of saying, this is my person who I am, which is what it is, and then from that space I can perform and set goals and do things that don't change who I am. So it's a growth mindset oriented type of thinking. So like I've been getting into like animal walks, animal movement. I've been doing that for a long time, but now I'm really working this random stuff into so a lot of times over here we've got these lifting platforms, we've got these guys just pounding out snatches and clean and jerks, like endless and endless. And I'm fucking doing the monkey bars and I'm hanging upside down from the thing and I'm crawling around and I'm having fun. And actually like a few months ago I wouldn't really do that because I was like, oh shit, these guys are lifting hard and I'm going to be here like toying around like a little girl and whatever. And I'm like, no, this is more fun for me right now. This is what I want to do. I think it creates a very calm space to work from if you're not looking for that next thing or that next thing. And it's interesting how it's worked in my ability to be authentic, because authenticity is sometimes one of the most intense things you can do, to just be yourself. The easy choice is a lot of times to conform to what people want to see. Like when I started doing public speaking, I would always worry about how am I going to show up? How do I shake hands? How do I give people my business card? How do I iron my shirt in the right way? Am I wearing the right shoes for this crowd? All that bullshit. And it worked. It was fun. I could do my thing, but it didn't really get there. And now a lot of times it just go like, I had a talk recently and I was still wearing my hat on stage, which is something I don't know, I didn't think about it. And then as I started talking, I was like, fuck, I'm wearing my hat. What am I going to do? I can't take it off anymore because it'll look weird or whatever. And I was like, who gives a fuck, right? And so I used to set goals and then look for something. I was trying to show people a version of me. And now I'm just like, no, I'm just standing there on stage, bare feet, make all the dick jokes I want. And the more authentic I am in all those areas of life, in my training, in my relationships, in my work, everything's just been flowing much more. Yeah. So I only do things that flow. And the main teacher of that is my little daughter, because I can't bullshit her. And I've realized now that as a parent, you can think of a lot of things that you should give your child, that you need to do. There's all these practical things. There's ways to raise your kid, all this stuff you have to think about. But the one thing that my child is truly entitled to is my authenticity. I think that's the only thing that really matters. Because you want to be emotionally stable, yes, of course. You want to have practical things, but also you want to be able to say, like, this is difficult for me. I am emotional, and we'll get through it. And just be whoever you really are.
I love that. That's parenting advice and life advice for rats and
yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and that's like, for me, as soon as I became a parent, life became far more high stakes.
Yeah.
Everything started to matter more. And now I'm like, I know who's watching. And not like I know who's watching, so I have to be somebody I'm not. No, I know who's watching, so I get to be an example of an authentic life. And I think that's the most... So that's the kind of work that you do with knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And what I love, and I like to kind of like poke myself with things like, I hate it. I get triggered on an emotional level when somebody says, well, who do you think, like, who are you to think that you can just go out, and if somebody says that to me, I will, like, some fire pops on inside of me. And I always used to have that, but I didn't have an answer. I didn't know, like, somebody go, who do you think you are? Like, who are you to, and then say something, whatever I want to do. Oh, Kasper, who do you think, like, who are you to go around the world and teach seminars and tell people how to think? I don't know. I'm sorry, right? And I used to kind of, like, go and become, like, introverted and apologetic about it. But now, I've done the work. I've done a lot of introspection. I've been through a lot of difficulty as I'm progressing through this life. And now I love it when people ask me that, because then I get to say, well, it just so happens that I know who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
Who are you? Yeah. Right? Bring it. Just have you done the work? I've looked inside, faced the demons, and now I'm here to show the world who the fuck I am. So, I think that's it's been very profound. Yeah.
Nice. I like that. So,
how are we for time, by the way?
Close 2 minutes. Let's finish off with what the future's holding for you.
Lots of exciting things. I've been following the flow. So I've decided, and I have too much work, so I get to choose only things that flow completely. Where, people are only the kind of things where people are really excited about working together. Only the things that are sustainable in the long term. I've been doing this for 2 years now. And I've been reading from your post also that it's like, oh my God, it's working. Yeah. And I had this, oh my God, it's working thing about a year ago. And then I was like, what if it disappears? So I was like frantically doing everything, saying yes to everything. Because it might be a fluke, it might be luck. And now I'm like, wait. These results I'm getting, I might be getting them because I really know what I'm doing. Like this might be something that I could do for another 100 years. So let's now really look at the foundation I'm building. So I've got cool stuff. I'm building the scale. I'm building an online academy for all these things because I've got the demand is too high. I can't serve the people that I could serve. So I'm kind of like stepping up my game of who could I really serve and how could I do it. So I'm building a whole bunch of online courses. Going to be called the Mindlift Academy. Going to do a big seminar in the Netherlands with 500 people. Just increase the skill and build this. I want to build this wave of empowerment where people can just come together and feel like they're surrounded by people that are like-minded. We're building this gym. We're opening it at the end of next month. Really excited about that, to have a physical place where people come to basically, learn about their life. And I've got a big East Coast tour coming up. New York, Miami, Boston, Colorado, do seminars everywhere, a bunch of interviews. So, and that's in the next 6 months. And that's just a selection of things that I've been excited about and that flow, and then I have no idea what the next year brings, and I love it. I love that I have no idea what it brings.
I love how I'm going to do this, not I'm going to try and do this. It's just like 500 people seminar. It's going to happen.
Yeah. So that's something that's another mental muscle to train.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing, I think a lot of people have this almost a dichotomy between, I would like to maybe do this, but it'll probably never happen. Instead of training the mental, so saying you're going to do something and then making it happen, getting shit done. I like this, my mastermind. We call it GSD all the time, just getting shit done. It starts with I'm going to clean my room, and then actually having a clean room an hour later. That's kind of or even I give people this little training tool where I say, grab a matchbox, put it on your nightstand, take out one match in the morning, and at the end of the day, put it back. That's the smallest version of that mental muscle, right? Yeah. Determining you do it, it happens. Determining you do it, it happens. And then you start to progress on that slowly, build a programming for yourself like you would do with athletic work, and then at a certain point, I'm almost careful. It's almost like be careful what you wish for, because when I say I'm doing it, it's practically already done. I know the systems. I know where it's going to go. I know how it's going to work, and it's already set in motion. So it's almost. It's difficult because you have to build a lot of self-trust, but it's like somebody said, if I have a new plan, by the time I actually word it as a statement, it's going to happen, it's already set in motion. And I almost I can't even make it not happen anymore. Yeah. So, that's definitely
nice, man.
Some self-talk intensity right there.
Yeah, it's complete alignment between who you want to be and your self-talk. It's nice.
Yeah.
Where can people find out more about you?
Mindlift.com. Best place to go. I've got everything over there. You just Google my name. And I'm most active on Instagram at Kasper's Focus.
Yeah.
So
it's a genuinely enjoyable Instagram to follow.
really good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, man.
Follow me. Do it now.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast. Don't forget you can find my books Intensity Tolerance and The Impossible Art of Consistency on Amazon by searching for my name, that is Tom Foxley, Foxley. Go on Amazon, search them out. Also check out my seminar list all out the UK, definitely in the US in 2018 as well, but that's not finalised. And search me out, Tom Foxley, on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, and search for facebook.com/Alpha Movement Official, and you can find out much more info. By the way, there's for all of you who have listened this far in the podcast, I've decided to chuck in a little bit of a bonus for you guys. If you head to mindsetrx.squarespace.com/goal setting guide, you're going to discover my unique approach to goal setting with the functional athletes that I work with. So mindsetrx.squarespace.com/goal setting guide, and you shall find a little gift there for you. Enjoy.